Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's episode of TruthBusters is brought to you by the eCam Network, the official product for all Triple T Radio.
All three cam. Hello, everybody. This is Johnny Stewart along with Cue Ball Carmichael. You are listening and watching another edition of TruthBusters Live, brought to you by eCam and the Triple T Network. Boy, I tell you, I know I say this at every broadcast lately. I can't help myself. The timing of this show is incredible. The coronavirus, we have covered it for 2 shows. We're going to cover it for a few minutes here before we go into our main topic. Hear what you say. I've had people tell me good things, bad things, believability, not believability. The death rate has tripled. The infection rate has tripled. We were in Chicago or Illinois. We were at 3 or 4 deaths 10 days ago. We are at 1,400, 1,500. New York, the medical clinics are in absolutely pandemonium. Nurses and doctors wearing garbage bags over their bodies. I'm glad Donald Trump calls to the attention, hey, where was the Obama administration for 8 years? In Bush, I'm a ding-dong pro wrestler, failed semi-pro football player and businessman. And I've known for 15 years that up the top of the pyramid, if I was president, would be taking care of our soldiers, national defense, and epidemic or biological warfare. And having said, I talked about this when I ran for Congress, and I'm not patting myself in the back. I'm just saying it's so obvious. Having main centers around the country, main warehouses where there's MREs, meals ready to eat, gowns, masks, ventilators, antibiotics, insecticides, netting. I mean, you name it. I mean, you name it. You have one in Chicago. You have one in Charlotte, in Orlando, in Dallas, in Minneapolis, in New York. I mean, But again, we've talked about it before. I've said this a million times. I've had lunch and dinner with, dined with, been on planes with politicians. You talk to them about business, and business is about seeing into the future. A good business person predicts or tries to predict or judge the future. You talk to a politician about the future, their eyes go glassy. Don Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, not knowing about a third building collapsing on 9/11, just stuff like that. So, I'm glad Donald Trump addressed that. Dr. Fauci said that the death rate might go to 100,000, 200,000 in this country. Q, let me pass the yokes and the controls of the plane over to you. 200,000 people dead. And you believe what I told you about this coming fall, that it's going to mow people down according to every epidemiologist and virologist. I mean, now we're locked down to April 20th. I mean, we always look at you to put it all together in a nice little package. I mean, talk to me.
Well, the case of down in here in North Carolina is a little bit alarming, because being in law enforcement at 5 o'clock Monday, the no travel rule goes into effect here, which is going to be enforced unless you're going for necessities, groceries, going to work, and we're requesting that people get letters from their employers saying they are going to work, because they're really cutting down on it. Here, we've got our first case in our little county. They haven't given out a name, but unfortunately, it's a primary care physician. And there's only two doctors' offices in our town, and I had a physical 3 weeks ago at one of them. So little nervous at this particular point about it.
Yeah.
But they're taking it serious. I can say one thing. They're taking it serious everywhere. I think North Carolina has been more proactive with it as far as enforcing the ban. We are very fortunate.
Well, what are the facts on? What are the facts? What do you say that? Sorry for interrupting. Give us the facts of what you back up what you're saying. I'm not challenging you. I'm just saying.
Well, no.
To a law enforcement guy, what does that mean that they're enforcing it more, or that you feel?
Well, here's the thing: is when the governor's rule goes into effect at 5 o'clock on Monday.
Right.
I think if you're not in the normal flow of traffic, that you're going to work in the coming home flow of traffic, and you're randomly driving around at 1 o'clock in the morning because you're going to your buddy's house, it might end up costing you a ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, people have to work, people have to get food, people have to take their animals, and that kind of necessary stuff. And, the good thing about being a law enforcement for a little while is you can smell BS a mile away. So, most officers are pretty good at that. So, really,
yeah, I'm an attendant in the ER, and he's got blue jeans on, and, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, we're pretty good at sniffing that out. And the thing that we're trying to rule out is literally the unnecessary travel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need, they've closed the malls. The list of places they're keeping open are necessity places. Vape shops, things like that are going to close. Grocery stores are going to remain open. Convenience stores with gas are going to remain open. Although a lot of them here are just letting people use the pumps. They're not letting them inside for anything. So in the rural area, I think we've done a pretty good job of keeping it isolated. But I think the big problem is there's two types of people during this pandemic. There's ones who don't take it serious enough, and ones that take it very serious.
Good point.
And
no, that's a great point. Great point. Yeah.
And today, we lost a great country music legend. Joe Diffie passed away from the coronavirus today.
Hugh, can I ask you a question on that? I didn't tell you this. I am reading. We should talk about this as a show one time. 20 days prior to this, getting this book, I was telling my wife, Joanne, there has to be a movie made about in the late 60s on maybe a night or a weekend bender with Christopherson, Willie, Johnny Cash, George Jones, Waylon, out in Nashville on the town, some sort, even if it's a little historical documentary, with historical license. I said, I'm thirsting for it. I used to love country music in high school. So, and I talked about it again. 2 days later, she goes, oh my God, we're in Door County, Wisconsin, in this cute little woman's shop, but on the little dresser of this little boutique is 3 books of Charlie's Pride and Johnny's Cash. The just story after story of country music legends. I mean, folks, get the book. I will mail it. I'll mail it. It was awesome. So, but my long story short, I didn't see that guy's. I'm about 3/4 of the way in it. I did not see his name in there. Can you refresh us of like when his heyday was, and
Well, Joe Diffie really had
Joe
some
Diffie.
hits.
Okay.
Yeah, had some hits in the 90s. Wrote a lot
Okay.
of songs.
I'm not at the
for a lot
90s
of-
yet. That's why. Okay.
Yes, wrote a lot of songs for. He's only 61. So
Okay.
he wrote a lot of songs for a lot of people. Considered one of the better singer-songwriters and country guitar men of all time.
Wow.
There's a couple current songs that actually mention, Joe Diffie in them that are out there now. I can't think of the name of them, but I will. But, he was, to this era of country music person, which is more like Southern rock that I grew up on with Leonard Skinner and the Allman Brothers and stuff like that. That's more country music today. But a lot of these guys like Luke Bryant, like Brantley Gilbert, like Lee Brice, all these guys credit Joe Diffie with changing the face of country music and making it more of a country rock or Southern country rock.
Wow.
So he gets a lot of credit, a lot of respect. Member of the Grand Ole Opry, real super talented guy. And yeah, unfortunately, I'm only 61. That scares me because
what did he die of?
I'll be coronavirus.
I thought he just
no. I'll be 60 in June. So I'm on that cusp, that borderline. And what concerns me is I've had pneumonia 3 times. And last year alone, I had bronchitis twice.
What is your blood type?
What's your blood scar tissue. I think I'm O negative.
So you have the caveman blood type like me.
That's exactly what I have, caveman. My wife calls me.
You get sick a lot as a kid? Were you sick a lot in your life or no?
I was sick as a kid.
With what?
The usual measles, mumps, all that stuff.
Oh, the usual stuff.
Yeah, not a sickly child. I was a healthy outdoor child, athletic, hunt, fish.
I'm reading a book about blood types, so we'll talk about that at another show.
Yeah, no,
that's really sad about that country music singer. Not to interrupt you, sorry.
Well, I'm a member of a group called LEO Only, for law enforcement only. You actually have to send them a picture of your badge and your credentials.
Right.
Not just a badge, but your badge and your credentials to get in the group. And I joined it a couple of years ago, and one of the detectives in New York City today that's in the group died too of the coronavirus.
Yeah. What are they saying? 100 cops in New York City have it, and like
360
5 died.
360 have tested positive. Over 300 out of work. Yeah, it's bad in New York City right now for the. But
I'll tell you what, if they don't give that guy a full military dress funeral, because I would rather fight as a police officer, somebody I saw and knew in front of me with a gun, than some invisible force that could take down me. And I mean, that really breaks my heart, because I have a lot of friends that are law enforcement, including you.
Yeah, it's extremely sad. Extremely sad situation.
Did you see how many doctors died in Italy, Q? Did you see how many doctors died in Italy? I mean, it's in the hundreds. I mean, wow. That's incredible. Anyway,
it's crazy. We were from the preliminary stages where it was everywhere else since we've been doing the show to being here, calling the stock market crash, and now we're seeing just massive outbreaks of it in the cities and people really dropping like flies. I figured up the death toll according to the percentages the other day that I saw, and I saw it was between 2.5% and 5% of the people that got it were actually dying. So again, it's not as astronomical as the Spanish flu, but it's close. But now we can do something about it's close. We can do something about it with the social distancing and everything. But the thing is that they're finding out that it spreads extremely easy, and that's the problem. But the other prediction that we talked about before, which I think is important, is the coronavirus 2020 versus 19. When this thing comes back around, mutated by nature, and recirculates to the flu next year, I think it's going to be even worse. I mean, this is going to be like the population balancer, basically. Maybe, for some reason, you never know. But, I mean, there's always a thinning of the herd, whether it's disease, whether in animals, or whether it's whatever. It always seems like that nature has a way, and I know this is man-made biological, but it almost seems like that there's always some checks and balance system with any type of animal on the earth where there's a ravaged disease, whether it's rabbits or whether it's, deer or whether it's bear or whatever. But this is the first time that we're seeing something that's been biologically released, So I don't know. I feel like the lab that leaked it, the country that it came from, I think there's got to be some kind of reparations financially. And that sucks.
Let me ask you a last question, the law enforcement question, your opinion, as we're wrapping up the virus for today. Stories that New Yorkers are going to Florida and running up to Southampton and all these vacation towns where they're not ready for them. In Rhode Island, there are stories we have not, TruthBusters has not confirmed this, but this was New York Times, and that Rhode Island state troopers are, for lack of a better word, running down New Yorkers that are fleeing the city, and basically saying, pack your bags, go back. There was a shelter in place. You ain't doing it, and you ain't coming to Rhode Island. So, regardless of whether that story is true, because we will never confirm anything unless we've researched the hell out of it. But assuming not even assuming, forget that story. If you had the tri-borough area in New York is exploded with corona, what if you had some sort of a control or a say in the matter? What would you do with New Yorkers fleeing to a bunch of states surrounding New York? I mean, do you have a constitutional right to say, get the F out and, go back? Or, I don't know. I don't even know if I have an opinion on it.
Well, if you look at the Constitution, the states are supposed to govern themselves to a certain degree. And I think at that point, the governor's got to put up a border. No crossing the border. I think it's for the safety. If I'm governor of Rhode Island, my main consideration, not just for mankind, but it's for the citizens of Rhode Island. And my job is to protect them. And I'm telling you, close the borders. You just don't allow them in. I'm sorry. If you're here, you're here. If you're not coming.
Yeah, you have something that can kill somebody else in Rhode Island. I think that is constitutionally warrants the governor doing some sort of draconian matters of, I'm not going to arrest you. I'm not going to pistol whip you, but I'm going to put you and your family back in the car, and you're going to go.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, me too.
It's coming to that, and I don't think it's a wrong thing to do. If you don't have a life or death situation and you can't prove it, and you don't, if it's one thing if you're going to Philadelphia to the Cancer Research Center and you've got to be there.
Sure.
It's another thing if you want to take your family and cut through Rhode Island and go through Massachusetts and go to New Hampshire to hide away for a month. I'm sorry, you got to turn around and go back. The border's closed. You can't go through here.
Yeah, because you're going to stop at gas stations. You're going to use the restroom there. And if you or your kids have it, you're going to give one of a Rhode Island residents that has done nothing wrong and is sheltering in place and just simply getting gas. And now you're going to infect them with the coronavirus, and that is wrong, right?
Yeah, it's wrong. I agree, 100%, 100%. Yeah, and at this point, what's the next step, John? What's the next step? You ran for governor of Illinois, so you're familiar with making executive decisions. What is the next step in controlling this virus? Is it closing state borders?
It is the governor getting on, which I can't believe hasn't happened yet. It's the governor getting back on, let's say, Illinois public radio, all stations and internet and radio, and saying, okay, 70% of you are heeding my warnings. Okay, listen to me now, because now the gloves are off. Shelter in place. We are I guess if the cases exploded as governor, and I would have had to have made this choice. If I would have won the race, I would have eventually said, look, I'm going to have the National Guard, not in a draconian measure,
Right.
very respectful. Where are you going? Where? No, you're not going to your Aunt Peggy's for freaking coffee cake and coffee. Are you going to work? What do you do for a living? Oh, you make plastic tags for baseball batting helmets? Go home. You're going to get blamed? You're going to get blamed either way. No matter what, who's going to die, who's not going to die. I think the governors and political leaders, for the first time in my life, feel for them. There's no easy solution. But at some point, especially New York, I can't believe Cuomo has not gone on and said, I told you, I warned you, now you force my hand. If you're not you're doing something with vehicles for emergencies, food, gas, transportation, medical, military, police, fire, nuclear, you better be going to the store or the grocery market. And that's it. And
correct.
Folks, we've got 57,000 people that are infected. We're going to have 120,000 infections in a week and a half. Do you want World War Z movie with Brad Pitt? I don't. So listen to me. Shelter the you-know-what in place. Don't force my hand. The National Guard has been told to be to be almost too kind and respectful, because we know the sensitivity of people with the military. And however, you better be able to prove where you're going. And you're not going to your aunt's house for coffee cake and Uncle Charlie's birthday. Because let me tell you, I've heard it's going on. I've heard it already this week. And I'm like, effing out of your party in Illinois. They broke up with 40 people at a house party. Well, you're going to force the governor's hand, and they're going to go draconian.
Yeah, and then you're going to say they're violating your constitutional rights when they're just trying to protect you, and that's the crazy thing about it. Here's another thing I want you to consider. Now, this has come down through Philadelphia. I'm sure it's in New York. I know it's in Philadelphia. I know it's in Baltimore. I know it's in D.C. And I know it's down here in my little county. Is the jails are not accepting any more people unless it's a violent crime. We had last week an officer friend of mine arrested somebody for DUI, and the magistrate, he went before the magistrate, couldn't take him to jail. The magistrate signed the papers, charged him with a DUI. He took the breathalyzer, everything was good. But then he was released to a sober person. But the police officer had to wait for a sober person to get there, and he had to wait with the guy for 4.5 hours. So that ties up an asset as a police officer, number one. Number two, the problem is that probably the safest place for somebody to be right now is in jail, because they're not taking any new people. And if you're in jail for 90 days or 120 days, you're probably in the safest place that you could be. I realize the food ain't so good, but unless the
guard brings it in. But
unless the guard brings it in, then everybody gets it. But they're doing minimal contact now too. So, but it's an interesting thing where it's violent crimes only. Otherwise, I mean, they're still giving people citations. They're going to have court dates eventually and things like that. But that's kind of interesting. The other thing is, I'm really starting to see the economical trickle-down effect. I stopped at a vape shop last night. My wife used to smoke. She vapes Juul or something. And stopped to get her some vape packs. And the girl said to me, she goes, "Officer Jackson, are we going to have to close? Am I going to lose my job? Because I got a kid." And I'm sitting there thinking, this young girl who I know, her uncle's a good friend of mine, who I know, who is working at a vape shop, which is not on the list of places that can stay open, looks at me and asks me, Officer Jackson, am I going to have a job? I got a kid I got to feed. And I'm sitting there, and I said, well, you got to check the governor's order for Monday and check the list, because they updated it twice. Originally, veterinarians weren't on there, and now they're letting the veterinarians stay open because, things happen with your animals. Your dog gets hit by a car. You don't want to lay in your house for 3 days and die when you can take it to the vet and it's fine, So that's an important thing. But, something as little as a girl working a vape shop for $9 or $10 an hour is the difference in her feeding her kid or not. And she's looking at me going, am I going to have a job? And that's the trickle down of this. We've discussed it, but now with a list of places that are able to stay open, such as takeout food can be open, no restaurants, no bars. They've closed all the gyms in North Carolina, all the movie theaters, as they have most everywhere. The essential places, grocery stores, as I said, convenience stores for gas at least, and some of the convenience stores are staying open inside. No visitors at the hospital, obviously. If you got somebody in there with a terminal illness, you can't even go in and visit them. They're going to lay there and die without their family by their side because, in North Carolina, at least, they have real police officers, company police at the hospital, and they are not allowing visitors. So you think about that for a minute. When you're in, and Johnny, you and I went through it with our moms. When you're in a position of a terminal illness, you want to spend as much time with your mom or whoever loved one it is as you possibly can at home. But also, if the last days are in a hospital, you want to be there. And now those people are being deprived of something that can never be replaced or given back. It's not a job that you can get again. It's things that matter, especially things like that matter. And people aren't being allowed to go in and see those people. And, to me, there's a lot of heartbreak with the jobs and people getting into things, but I put myself in that position where the last 2 weeks of my mom's life was spent in the hospital. And I was able to be there, and to take that away from somebody to me, like, that's the most painful thing that this virus has done. It's actually done what no terrorist organization has been able to do. It's killed more people. It put more people in, terrorists just keep you in fear. They keep you in terror. And that's, hold on. I'll be right back. There you go. Sorry, lost it. But it's putting people in fear and terror constantly. And, jobs, money, economic situation, your loved ones in the hospital, everything has changed. I mean, and is this going to be another month, another 2 months, another 3 months, another 6 months? I mean, I took a picture of my daughter today doing schoolwork because she's homeschooled. And I said, aren't you glad that you're homeschooled? And she just put her head in her hands, she's shaking her head no. Because she's still going to school, and I made her deal with her. She could have Friday and Saturday off if she worked all day today. So she's not getting out of it. But she'll end up ahead of her classmates because they're not doing any school now. So, it's a crazy situation all the way around. But, I really feel for people that have been in situations like we have. I really feel bad for the police officers in the major cities. Listen, I'm not looking for any sympathy. I don't feel bad. I do my job. I took my oath, and I'm in a very rural area. And the likelihood of coming in contact with somebody is a lot slimmer than it is if you're a police officer in Baltimore or Philadelphia or New York or Chicago. And I know you got a real good buddy who's a cop up there, John. I mean, you're really putting yourself in a very precarious situation of contracting this virus as a public servant. If you're an ambulance staff, if you're medical staff, fire department, police officers, people that have to work so that people can go to the hospital and get treated, so that people can be defended, those people are the most susceptible to the virus. Now we're seeing it with the numbers that a New York City policeman infected. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know. How long? When do you, John? Let me ask you something. As former candidate for governor of the state of Illinois, you probably have your pulse on this even better than I do. How long do you think that this is going to wreak the kind of havoc that it's wreaking right now?
Well, go top to bottom. The budgetary, Chicago, Illinois was a budgetary crisis. I've said this before. The police and fire pensions in Chicago were circling the drain. I mean, circling the drain in 18. And I was told by three budgetary people that do this for a living, 5% correction in the stock market, the pensions go kaput. We've had a 20% correction, but I haven't heard anything about pension payments being cut in the budget, and I think they're obfuscating a little bit on that. I think that's going to be a complete implosion in the next 4 to 6 months, and we will address that when that happens. So financially, it's, we're going to get the money from the government, but what happens after 4 months? What happens after that money rolls out? Look, I'm a retail automobile dealer. My whole business in the business of the country, we've said this on the show, is a confident, exuberant, positive population going out, waking up every morning, going out and spending their money. And I talked to 7 car dealers in the Chicago area over the weekend. I said, I'll write somebody a check to their charity for $250 if you can show me a couple who bought a $45,000, $50,000 SUV this weekend. I don't care whether your husband worked for Underwriter Laboratories and you work for, some very sturdy company, Abbott Laboratories, and you know the financial condition. Who is buying a $50,000 SUV or a Suburban that's $102,000? And I'm not talking about the car business. Put that in the context of a $1,200 TV at Walmart, or someone that wants to get stained glass windows, somebody that wants to get the expensive washer and dryer. I mean, it's over. I mean, and I cue my right hand to God. I've never lied to you since I've known you. My right hand to God. I've had 5 people call me this weekend saying, I thought you were an alarmist wacko 2 weeks ago. You're right. It's over. I mean, the economy is freaking. Okay. Are you and Rihanna going to go out to first of all, you're going to go out to a restaurant a month from now? Of course you're not. Because you might as well take a revolver and play Russian roulette. Are you going to go out to a restaurant and spend $150? No, you're not. If you're Vince McMahon, are you going to tell Bruce Pritchard, hey, your expense account, let's talk, put it in the wrestling terms. No more Mortons in Chicago, Right. That is going to, from expense accounts to people buying cars. The car business is over. For in my opinion, to get all of the, they're saying 25% of it's going to be unemployment. That is Depression era employment. To get to reverse that and get people back to work, forget getting them back to work. It's getting them back to work and then wanting to take their wife out for dinner and going to buy a $25,000 Corolla and not going to Jack Stewart, my family, and buying a $6,000 Corolla. It's getting people to want to get, who is going to get on a cruise ship again? I mean, raise the red flag if you think what I'm saying is nuts. You and I, 15 years from now, we are going to be the grandparent generation. Like our grandparents, don't buy anything on credit, pay cash. Hey, save the leftover. We can, we're going to be the, my grandparents were, easy on the toilet paper and turn off all the light,
Oh yeah.
Because, folks, you think your neighbor losing his job is a big deal? Wait till your neighbor is packing up everything they own in their car and they can't eat, they can't live where they're going to live. How long are you going to tell Citibank to hold off on mortgages? 4 months? It's going to be more than 4 months. So I'm not. It's not even about the money. It's the buyer's confidence. But it's worse than 9/11. I don't believe a terrorist is going to be at Olive Garden but someone might have something invisible that can kill my 19-year-old daughter. Hey, let me give you the Italian right here. I ain't going. I'm not going. And that's and and you're looking at my family business might survive. I sell $4, $5, $6, $10,000 cars. We might, I don't know. So I'm not speaking like gloom and doom. Let me join the misery party. I'm just talking about I know people.
Well,
I am like Mark Twain. I am an observer. I'm a noticer. That's what Mark Twain called himself.
Right.
I know.
Right.
I observe.
Right.
And I'm 53 years old. I know human beings. I've been in retail for 30 years. I'm much wrestling and politics, and it's not so much the money. It's the confidence to go spend that money. That's my statement. I mean, tell me, pile on, please.
Listen, I'll throw a little cue ball Carmichael story. When I was 22, my grandfather passed away. He was 102 years old. He had toured the Titanic, sailed later from England to America, and he had survived the Great Depression. He had told me that there was no money, so for Christmas dinner, they went out to a cornfield and shot 30 or 40 pigeons, and that was Christmas dinner. But my grandmother had thousands of canned goods in our basement. We had a house built in the late 1700s. It was a cobblestone basement. It was always cold with a dirt floor.
Always cold, yeah.
Literally thousands of canned vegetables, in glass jars with the wax and everything.
Sure.
I mean, canned. They're not canned. You and I know they're not canned, but I don't know if the younger listeners or watchers will know. But, we're talking about vegetables.
Explain that. Wait a minute. We're TruthBusters, folks. You take apple slices, you put in water and a couple of slices. You seal the glass jar, and there's a tin metal seal, and you put it in the boiling water, and it vacuums all the air out. So that's canning.
Exactly. So, but my grandfather was one of those guys who, if he looked at something, the first thing he would say is, can I repurpose this? Can I use this? Can I put it in the barn? Can I put it in the basement? Why shouldn't I throw this away? He found every reason not to discard things because he had been through the Great Depression when there was no money to buy anything anyway, and I am sitting here thinking that I'm slowly I'm going to become my grandfather. If I live to be 102, my grandkids are going to look at me and go, Pop, why are you keeping that? It's no good. Because there may be a time when we can't leave our house or our yard, and we're going to need this for something, firewood, whatever. It's a crazy thing. And I'll give you another story. I got two friends who sell on Amazon that are multimillionaires. They're in their mid-20s. One's late 20s. And I had talked to them about saving money. They all drive Highline automobiles. One lives in the most exclusive condominium in Vancouver, British Columbia. He's from Toronto. So you know what that costs. His condo probably cost $500,000.
Sure.
Another friend has a big spread in South Dakota. They both sell Amazon FBA. In other words, they never see, touch, or feel anything like I do. It's shipped to Amazon and it's sold. One of them went through a period of time last year where Amazon suspended his account for 3 months. He lost $100,000 a month. He barely got through it. Neither of these guys sell toilet paper or hand sanitizer, or what Amazon is taking and receiving now are only household necessities. If they feel that it is a sanitizer, bleach, toilet paper, anything like that, they'll accept it and receiving. Otherwise, they're not accepting anything. So I sent my buddy a message. I said, how bad is this hurting you? He goes, if it doesn't change in 3 months, I'm done. Done meaning can't afford my house, can't afford my car, won't be able to feed my kids, because I had spoke to these guys. We talk about modest living. Even if you have money, modest living is done for a reason, so that you have a cash reserve for something like this. And these guys are young and they're living up to their means. Well, the problem is one is so good that he sells an Amazon course. I took his course, learned how to sell on Amazon, became friends with him. And the other guy is in there too that I became friends with. And both of these guys, the crux of their business is selling courses to sell on Amazon. Well, if you can't sell on Amazon, nobody's going to buy your damn course. I don't care what it costs. Number
Right.
one. And number two is the other guy that sells on Amazon that's a millionaire doesn't sell household products. So both guys right now, for as long as this goes on with Amazon, it was supposed to be till April 5th. We got an email on Friday that Amazon has continued receiving only household necessities until further notice.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah, that means, thank God for us, it stayed a part-time business, and we actually considered going at it full time. And after this, I told my wife, I'll keep a police officer's job for steady income and benefits. You're the one that can take over the Amazon business, or vice versa. But one of us is going to stay gainfully employed. And the sad thing about police work is we're exposed. The good thing about police work is we'll be the last people to not be working. You know what I mean? So there's goods to that, there's bads to that. But this is a time where we have reconsidered what our goal was, because our goal was, with the success we had, we know if we do this with 10 items, it'll be a great source of income for us. But this pandemic, whatever you want to call it, has really given us a second thought on our future, which we had totally planned out. In 6 months to a year, we were just going to travel and see friends and family. And my daughter goes online school. She can do it from any place. My wife's job is from a computer. She can do it any place. And I was going to step away from police work. We were going to do that. But now we've completely reconsidered our life game plan that we've had for 2 years. So it's really scary. I mean, this is something that is so frightening to me that it's made me reconsider retiring at any time soon. I don't want to retire anyway. My grandfather lived to be 102, worked till he was 85. So I know if you stay working, you stay alive. If you retire, sometimes the wheels fall off pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
But we had talked about it. You had given me some hints. I called you about a couple cars. I used to flip cars, always made money on them. I was getting ready to buy a Honda Accord that I talked to you about. And for some reason, when this started, I said, nah, let me hold off and wait. And I still would have sold it and made money, but something made me want to hang on to that money versus buy that car. And so, it's really a different day and age. And this is such a different enemy than people have ever had. It's almost like being invaded by aliens, but it's a virus. And, I always think about what Stephen King said in his movies. What you can't see is more scary than what you can see.
Of course.
And This is completely true with this. We can't see it. We can't isolate it. We can't inoculate against it. We can only be susceptible to it. And it's scary times.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to go back to with your police work and whatnot. I was talking to a friend of mine about this. On maybe I always try and find silver linings. I'm thinking like, and I've seen and heard some stories about it. It's almost going to be like, to some degree, just to keep the fluidity of policing. It's almost going to sometimes go back to small town Mayberry, where, like when you brought up the DUI guy, put him in your back of your car. Where do you live? Dropping him off, and all of his info. Expect a summons or a ticket in the mail, or I'll come back next week, and I am touched and a little hopeful of humanity of the stories that have come out of people. The My Pillow guy is turning his factory into making masks. He's going to be making 30,000 masks a week now and going to ship them out. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of hopeful things, but that's like saying, I scored 6 touchdowns, but we lost to Yale still by 22 points. I mean,
right. And one of the things I wanted to encourage people to do, if they can, is to, if you're lucky enough to still be working or going to work and getting a paycheck, is take $10 a week if you can and fund the local food banks, because there are going to be people with kids who lose their job that are going to need to hit up food banks for food. And food banks are always underfunded and out of food anyway. I know for me in the past that's always been something that I've tried to do. And if you can, I mean, if it accepts food, stop at the grocery store. If you see green beans, 2 for $1, buy 20 cans and drop them off at the food bank. You know
what? Great point.
Yeah, because they're going to be hit really hard if you happen to be out and pass the Red Cross or the Red Cross bus comes around, give blood. There's a massive shortage of blood right now.
Yeah.
Which
we just gave away 3 contractor bag sizes, 3 cut size of clothes. You know, they had to be. Well, we could have organized and induced our house 5 months from now, but we looked at each other and said, people are going to need this clothes, maybe not in America, but somewhere else. And the food bank, I could not agree more.
Yeah, we donate. We don't do yard sales. We always donate all of the clothes that we get tired of or my daughter grows out of. We always donate them to Goodwill.
Yeah.
And, you know, that gives people jobs that otherwise wouldn't. It gives
people second chances. Absolutely.
And the food bank, guys, and this is something not a lot of people are thinking about if they're still working and they're still able to bring them a paycheck or they work from home remotely, is make sure you do something for your local food bank. They desperately need food, and there are going to be people out there that they're not going to eat unless they can go to a food bank and get food. So can I talking to my heartstrings.
You talked about Goodwill. Applause to you. That is, you know what? Now is not the time to have bad karma. You know.
No, you're right.
You know, look, you are right. I was in Menards today, trying to fix. I've got to fix my hot water heater. Yeah, the illustrious Johnny Stewart fix it. Yeah, whatever. That is what it is. But you're right. There was green beans, 62 cents a can. They're normally $1.20. I mean, you know, grab. You're right.
Yeah.
Grab $10 worth. Drop them off. You're right. And let me tell you about Goodwill. My wife and I, my family believes in Goodwill like you wouldn't believe. The jobs that it gives, the retail, the commercial retail that it helps. I know that guy is a millionaire that owns the mall, but that guy that owns the mall, that's leased a place to Goodwill. Maybe he'll buy some trucks. Maybe he'll go on another vacation. Maybe he'll hire, or maybe he'll buy another distressed mall and rehab it and get more jobs. And so I believe in Goodwill. And I've had a lot of uppity people. I live on what's called the North Shore of Chicago.
I know where you live.
Not my house, but, you know, around a couple miles from me. And my wife's got all of these wives whose husbands make, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars. We call it GW, you know, and you go there and you know, I made a big thing about it when I ran for governor. All 5 of my suits were bought at Goodwill. And, you know, so it was a cute thing, but, you know, it is a necessity. You make a great point. I'm so glad that you said that, because this is a time, karma, give back, help your neighbor. I mean, my God, my neighbor took in my garbage cans last week. Little gesture, big feeling, just to know that someone is just looking out for you and not in a siege mentality. I think that is going to be crucial for, I hate to say this, our survival of, you know, and I'm the Chicken Little, you know, I'll jump in the bunker and knock my grandmother out of the way. And I mean that tongue in cheek, but, you know, this is the time to give back, to have good karma, help your neighbors as much as possible, be courteous in the grocery stores and on the streets. And Cue Ball is right. If you can give blood, if you can drop off a grocery bag to help some family that's just struggling more than you, do it. I mean, because karma's everything right now.
Yeah, and you know, it's we have the social distancing and everything, but you know, I don't know if you watched the president's prayer breakfast. Did you watch that?
I did not, but I will.
Yeah, watched it. It's very moving, and it shows a very kind side of the president, but also the people that he's working with. And I watched that this morning. I said, you know, now is the time to be kind. I mean, it doesn't cost anything. And there's so many people so afraid that they're going to get this or they're not going to live till next year. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. You don't have to touch somebody to be kind physically. I mean, be kind when you post on social media. Be kind when you talk to somebody on the phone. I mean, it's a time to be kind and benevolent as much as you can, because for those of us that have enough, we should give what we can to those that don't have enough and will not have enough during this pandemic. So, you know, we were very united after 9/11. Nick was a kid, but you remember it very well, John. The country was very united as a people.
Very proud of the country.
After 9/11.
It was.
Yeah, the most patriotism I've ever felt in my life. And this is the time for us to be patriots. I'll take care of our brethren and make sure that the people that can't take care of themselves have something at these very difficult times. Well,
if Joanne and I
whatever you do, remember this. If you're going to do a YouTube show, go to eCam. They're kind and they're benevolent.
Great company, eCam. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If Joanne and I make a lasagna, we drop it off at the fire station, will they eat that, or will they toss it in the garbage for fear is that something viable we can do?
At this particular time, I would only give away canned goods. Okay. You know, canned goods are indefinite shelf life pretty much. You're not going to catch anything from it. They can wipe it down with Lysol and still eat what's inside of it. I would stay, typically that is a grand gesture. Cookies for the police department, lasagna for the fire department, whatever. That's a great move. But at this particular time, people are so nervous and so scared. I think canned goods are the way to go. Yeah. Canned juices, things like that. Cases of water, if you can get them. Those are what count right now.
Hey, Nick, up in Canada, can you give us a recap up there? Streets empty, streets full, stores closing. What we don't hear from the Canadian Prime Minister. So give us a rundown, Nick London, our A1 producer. Give us a rundown of what's going on up in Canada.
You know what, guys? What's going on up here in Canada right now is people are getting scared, man. Like, I mean, scared. Our grocery stores are open. Obviously, they're essential. However, they've got us lining up 6 feet apart. Only so many people are allowed in the buildings at a time. Right. Weird. It's weird. It's really weird. My wife and I are the type of people, we're following the rules. We tend to not go out at all unless we do need to go to the grocery store. As you guys already are aware of this, the schools are closed. The police are driving everywhere. We are still seeing, like, our beaches the other day. It was pathetic because there were hundreds of people hanging out at the beach and walking. And, I'm all for getting out and getting that fresh air, man. But you got to do it very carefully. But I think you guys will agree that's not exactly the safest thing to do. But you know what? As far as things, nothing's changed except closures, and more people are getting laid off more than ever. My mom was just laid off. She's never not worked a day in her life. So this to her is, this is tragic.
Tragedy. Yeah,
it is. It is. So I get it. I'm fortunate as of right now. I'm not laid off, but I'm also not at work. So that can change overnight. I mean, God love the government. They've been good to us, but I'm just thankful where I'm at, and I'm thankful to have my health, and I stick with the rules because I don't want to get sick, and I don't want my wife or my children to get sick. So I'm good with following the rules. This is my sanity right here. TruthBusters, Triple T Radio. It gives me something to do, and it occupies me in the home.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, just wanted to mention, last week when the show got cut short, I had mentioned my friend who's a window salesman in Philadelphia, Ryan Bird. And, I asked him this week, they have about 10 people. He's one of the top 1 or 2 guys. He was a manager, but didn't want the responsibilities, just became a new homeowner. And, he wanted more time with his son and stuff. So he went back to sales, and they have 10 sales reps or 12, and they furloughed 8 of them.
Who's buying windows?
Who wants somebody in my house to sell me windows?
True, too.
He said that they're getting the occasional appointment, but it's very rare. And here's a guy that's used to making six figures. Last year, bought a really nice house based on the fact that he makes six figures, and his job, at least for the next 3 to 4 months, is not going to be there. And I know it's going to be a struggle for him. He's a survivor, so he'll make it. But I mean, I was just talking about him on the show that got cut short. And, you know, it's his brother. Last I knew, Larry was delivering something. He was a Coke man for years, but now he delivers something else, lumber or something, or for Lowe's or Home Depot, and nobody wants the delivery guy even bringing anything. I got a letter from Chewy saying, don't expect your order on time this month. I wasn't expecting it at all. And, you know, Amazon Prime, forget about that. If you think you're going to get something in a day, you're lucky unless it's a necessity, it won't ship for 3 or 4 days. You won't get it for a week. So you have to make that adjustment because we all become really, I don't know about you guys, but I'm dependent on Amazon Prime for all gifts sent to all houses, gift wrapping included, everything else. And that's, you know, plan ahead because that's not happening in the orderly fashion. And I understand people that need necessities, and they're being kind enough. It affects the rest of us, but they're being kind enough to prioritize their business to take care of people who need the essentials that live out like I do in the middle of nowhere, and I got to go 30 miles to get that stuff. They're kind enough to deliver it to them. So, you know, I as painful financially as it is for all of us that are in Amazon, they did the right thing by going with essentials only, in my opinion. So, you know, right. So if Jeff Bezos happens to be watching this, just know I hit you up, buddy. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, well, you know, you know, we're getting short on time here. You know, another silver lining is, you know, I've been able to spend a lot of time with my daughters past 10 days. We must have had 5 or 6 family meals around the dinner table.
Oh, yeah.
Making breakfast, you know, we took a trip to Menards today. So, you know, that's one nice thing that I think it's going to, adversity doesn't give you character. It brings, it reveals it. And in the same token, this is going to also kind of crystallize and get you clear on what's important to you. And it might not be family, it might be something else, but this event will let you. And I talked to a million guys that said, you know, I really don't give a crap about my fantasy baseball league, or, you know, Mike, I'm worried about surviving. I feel a closer bond to my kids, and so I see it changing for some people's perception.
And here's a great thing with you. You know, I was in the car business years ago, and it's one of the busiest businesses you can be in. It dominates your time. You don't get as much time with family that you want because, you know, you need to be on the lot. You need to get cars for the lot. You need to pay people to work for you, and it dominates a lot of your time. So I'm glad that the silver lining here is that you're getting to spend more time with your family, because I know that you don't get a lot of precious time with them. So I'm very happy for JoJo and the girls, and you're getting to spend some time with them. Yeah. And, you know, it's going to be very healthy for your all's relationship.
I agree.
Even though it's during difficult times.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, Joanne, you know, was furloughed or put her on, limited days. You know, so we got to go to a couple of auctions this week and look at cars where, you know, and believe me, folks, I'm social distancing. There's no one at the auctions on the lot looking at the cars. There was one other car dealer. He's like, John, I was in front of like, we waved to each other. You can't go in the office. The security guards letting you in are like, hello, Mr. Stewart, you know. But it was nice to, you know, went out to lunch and, you know, a 2-hour drive together. So that was nice. And again, karma and getting the moments that you can and making this however positive you can, I think is going to be really important just for our sanity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you know, I've always sought solace in my family. And right now, you know, I'm fortunate enough that, you know, I'm only part-time in the law enforcement right now. I suspect that will change because, if things get too crazy, they're going to bring all of us in to be out there all the time.
Yeah.
And I fully expect that. But, I'm enjoying the time that I have with my family, too. It's, when you see people dying from this virus left and right, you really realize, again, how precious life actually is. And how incredibly fragile it is, too, that a flu-like virus could actually kill the amount of people that it's killing. And so every day when you wake up, if you feel good, thank God.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that are going to wake up tomorrow, they're going to have a sore throat and not feel good. And we know what the end result of that's probably going to be. So,
yeah,
God bless America. God bless the world. I tell everybody, pray for America, pray for the world.
We're going to end it on that. I don't think you can end it any better. Folks, as always, we appreciate you listening and viewing us here on TruthBusters Live. Thank you again to ECAM and the Triple T Network. They have just been just wonderful. And if you want to do a podcast or anything of the such, please give our sponsors ECAM a call. They're just wonderful from A to Z, Alpha to Omega. My hats are off to them. Thank you, as always, the best producer in the planet, Nick London, all of our field producers that have been really working for free on all of our research and information. We've got some other stuff coming next week. We're going to try, hopefully, to get to some other topics. We were going to talk about the genesis of aliens on this planet. It's going to be a really interesting show. When we start that, we're going to do it chronologically from the Sumerians to Egypt and on. I hope you join us for that. For Cue Ball Carmichael, I'm Johnny Stewart. Thank you again. Join us next Sunday, same time, same channel. This is the TruthBusters Live, where you don't hear their truth, you are going to hear the truth. Good night. God bless everyone. Thank you.